Alrighty, this is it, guys. We are finally going to get this bad boy wrapped up. I actually had a lot of fun building this kit. I ran into zero issues, or a little bit of things that needed some work, but other than that, it just fell together. Things fit. There's no problems. I wish all kits were this easy and this smooth. I really do. Start things off though, we gotta get this body cleaned up. I had a whole lot of dust fall in the clear while it was drying. I have a full video on wet sanding and polishing if you guys watch my BMW M1 build, so I'm not gonna go into a whole lot of detail here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna speed this up. I'm gonna give you a quick little flash of the sandpaper, the grit I'm working with. I'm going to wipe off all the wetness, all the sanding residue, just to show you the dramatic differences between all the different grits. This one here, this is our first rough cut. This is 3600 grit. This is the one we use to basically get everything down just flat. And then we work our way up through the finer grits and we just polish out all the sanding scratches we got from the previous grits. And as you can see right here, this is one step up, this is 4000 grit. It's getting a little bit shinier, but we're not quite there yet. And you can't see it, but this one is actually 6000 grit. And I must say, I really kind of like the way I edited this together. They say you cannot notice a gradual change, but chopping these up together from one grit to the other, you guys could really see a difference in the grits. Oh, and this is 8000, by the way. We're only about halfway done, and we're already at the point where I could see the reflection of my light with zero distortion. And this is the next step up. This is 10,000 grit. And the final grit we're going to be working with is 12,000 grit. Now for me, I have always had the kind of best results doing it dry. It tends to do more of an actual buffing than it does any kind of sanding or material removal. And I'm just showing y'all that these are the 12,000 grits I used, just in case there was any confusion. Yeah, we're at the point where the reflection is showing the individual LEDs in the work light above me. Now, you people on a phone, you may have a hard time seeing this, but those of you that watch on a TV, it's probably a whole lot more clear. At least I hope it is. And I know you guys do watch it on the TV because the analytics said like 36% of you do. So I'm curious, watch it on a TV, then watch it on your phone or a computer. Tell me if there's a major difference in quality and clarity. I'm just curious. Alrighty, but with all the sanding done, we could finally move on to the polishing. Now, if you guys use this stuff, it comes out super quick, so please be, Dave, whoops. Alright, I'm gonna clean this up real quick. Stand by. There we go, nice and clean. Now, for those of you who have never done this before or seen this process, this is way, way too much polishing compound. I could do this whole car twice with the amount I got loaded up on the rack there. The idea here, though, from my understanding, is just keep rubbing until all the liquid has absorbed into your rag or evaporated. That way you're working with the bare abrasives that come in a polishing compound. And you guys will be seeing a difference here. Once the liquid component is gone, you'll see the real shine starting to come through. Now just do that maybe 2 or 3 more times or until you're happy with the shine and to the entire body. Eventually, you'll have a reflection that looks like this. And do take note, this is the shiniest this will ever be. For the entirety of this film until the very end, it's going to be covered in fingerprints because I'm not going to wear gloves just to work on this thing. I don't got time for that. Now the next problem, all the nooks and crannies, the panel lines, everything is going to be filled with polishing compound. You guys could scrape all of that out, or you could recycle your soapy water you use for all the wet sanding, put it in your airbrush, crank up the juice a little bit, and you got your own pressure washer. I was trying to kind of show you guys a before and after here, but I sped up this footage because this video is already 35 minutes long, and I realize you guys can't really see a before and after. Oh well, the thought and intention was there, and I know a few frames ago you guys saw all that white crud down in all the panel lines. Throughout the rest of the build, you will not be seeing it. So, we know this method is effective. We're going to very carefully set that body aside somewhere safe, and we're going to work on all the photo etch, all the mesh, all the grills, everything on this car. Alpha Model was really super generous to give us a mold for some of the photo etch on this car. I'll be honest, in the past I have skipped some photo etch just because I can't bend it into the complex shapes. The only advice I could give is pay attention and go slow. These things are super precise. The pieces will only go in one way, but they will fit anyway if you use some force. Do not mess this up, because you do not get extra photo etch. Before we get all that photo etch painted up and installed though, I'm going to paint all the recesses it's supposed to fit in a semi-gloss black, a good contrasting color. And as you guys can see there, I slipped. This is why I don't like hand painting to a viewfinder. But since I got the body so highly polished, it wipes right up. Alright, but I got all the side vents, the rear vents. I'm going to do all that off camera just so there's no more accidents. So from there, it's really just building up the layers of photo etch. This, from my understanding, is one of the heat exchangers for the turbos. This little bitty guy, this is a vent for the brake cooling ducts. If you guys remember a long time ago, I had a fancy wax pencil for installing photo etch. Well, it rolled off my desk and broke. So I found an alternative. What I've been doing is I've just been sticking the photo etch in the bristles of a brush. It holds it just fine. It really does a good job. And thanks to those molds, those things just fall into place perfectly. This could not be any easier. And I didn't know where to fit this into the continuity of the video, but the headliner and A pillars and B pillars, they all got painted in that same tan as the rest of the interior. I just decanted some of it into my airbrush so I could be precise and not have overspray just getting all over everything. And for some reason I included a 2-minute montage of me pulling all that masking tape off, so enjoy this. Or don't. You could skip ahead about 30 seconds if you want. The A-pillars didn't come out as clean as I was hoping, but the windshield's got that black surround on it. It will cover most of that up, so I am not too worried. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside to dry, and we are going to work on the headlights. And if you guys have not seen this tip from Justin over at Herk Modelworks, use a mechanical pencil to get in all these super precise areas. It's really a game changer, man. I will not steal the thunder from him, so go check out his videos to get more in depth on this little tool right here. But what I did there is I just painted all the backings of the lights silver, so when I put the lenses on them, if I can, as small and fiddly with these tweezers, it just simulates that chrome backing on all the headlights. For this next bit here, there are some photo etch pieces that go down into a small groove at the bottom of the headlight to simulate the reflector on a daytime running light, that LED strip that all the new cars have these days. Problem is, well, I lost one of them to the carpet monster, so I just used some Molotov and ran it down in that groove, and then the headlights just drop into place. After that, I just ran a Sharpie all around the edge of the actual headlight lens. This will simulate that rubber seal, that gasket that just keeps all the moisture and rain out of the headlights. I know back in the day they used to use vacuum formed plastic for this. I am so glad that I got into Alpha Models here once they started doing actual cast pieces. I could not imagine cutting out a piece of vacuum formed plastic. I just don't have that kind of patience to do a whole lot of test fitting, sanding, test fitting. That's not me. Alrighty, and we are working on the taillights now, and these are complex to say the least. Now, looking at the real car, they're more shaded and tinted than they are red. So what I did is I painted the inserts a clear red, then the barrels that they slide into, I painted them just with some Tamiya smoke. Now when I go to assemble these, this will make sense when I see the inserts and the barrels. While those parts were drying though, I went ahead and I installed the side markers. These tiny itty bitty little things were so fiddly, I did not want to do it through a viewfinder. Alrighty, our taillight components are dry now though, so let's get these things assembled. I don't know the actual name for this thing, but I'm going to call it the taillight barrel going forward. And these are the inserts for the taillight barrel. Notice there is a bevel on these. My big fat fingers are making this too hard to see the bevel. That didn't help at all. Alrighty. Yeah, there. You guys can see that there is a distinct bevel to all of these pieces. The taillight barrel, they also have a very distinct bevel. These things need to clock in and slide all the way through the barrel. The problem here is you got to get those lined up perfectly, because there is no way to turn that insert once it's inside the barrel. So take your time here, get those lined up perfectly, and then just shove it on through. After about an hour, and I'm being dead serious, about an hour, I finally got that thing in there and clocked just right. And guys, do take note here. You notice that distortion towards the top, there is a lip there, a raised area that will not allow these to go all the way to the very top. And I used a whole plethora of tools here. What ended up working best for me was a chopstick, which I think is what this is. This allowed me to apply even pressure all around because I was using a toothpick originally and it kept kind of tilting and wedging itself in place and wouldn't go any further. But yeah, that was quite a chore, but now that I got it figured out, the other three, they only took me about probably 10 minutes all up for all of them. Alrighty, about the smoke and the hint of red, this is what the taillights look on the real thing. Now, if you remember right, my inserts were red, and they need to be a bit darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of giving a quick peek here. Normally what we do is we paint the inside of the taillight bucket silver to create an actual reflector. I am not going to do that, and from a distance this looks like if I just push that straight in, it will darken up just enough to give us a hint of red and still look the part. I need to point out here, because I overlooked it, there is a notch on the very bottom of these, and that will line up with a notch that is cleverly hidden down inside all these taillight buckets. That makes it to where we could perfectly align all these to where the bevels are kind of facing, well, they're matching the contour of the back of the car. So with all that said, and I'm happy with the way that's going to look, I am just going to push it home. Now, if you guys built up a whole lot of layers of paint and clear, you will not need any glue. Just force these things into place. And with all four of those guys pushed into place, a few dollops of microset crystal clear is all we need to hold the third brake light in place. And again, we are skipping the silver background. This thing is an LED in real life, so there is no need for a reflector. This is another one of those things where I didn't know where this fit into the continuity of the video, so I put it here because I don't know, I didn't know where else to put it. What I'm doing though is I'm just painting all the fender wells and the undercarriage of the car, the pieces that the chassis plate will not cover, but it all needs to be black. You guys remember in the beginning of the video when I was saying this thing will never be as shiny as it was then? Yeah, look at all that tape residue. Don't worry, we'll clean all that off later though, guys, I promise you. Now next up we are going to tackle the windows. Now there has been a whole lot of critiquing, I guess would be the correct word, about the glass Alpha Models uses. And that is because it is a flat pane that we have to contour to fit a kind of a round opening, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I used a whole lot of that microset crystal clear. This stuff is super tacky, and these windows are super flexible. So I'm hoping it will hold it all in place perfectly while it dries. And do your best to kind of get this lined up when you drop it, otherwise when you push it into place you're going to have a lot of squeeze out like me. Don't do like me. I'm an idiot. But what I'm doing now is I'm just going around and I am pushing everything down into the creases. I'm getting that glue smeared around and spread out. But did it work? No. It's actually got a whole lot of spring to it. So what I had to do is I had to I had to tape, well, I glued, but I had to hold the windows down in place with some tape while the glue set. Just look at the transition though, guys. Once you get this thing down into place and held tight, this is like perfect. And as you can see, we got some kind of squeeze out, we got some tape residue. That is no big deal. The microset crystal clear, it is water soluble. So I'm just going to dip a Q-tip in some water and all of that will clean right up. This is why I was so hesitant to use super glue. I got some of that fancy Bob Smith Industry stuff, but I didn't want to risk it. Alrighty, so I got a call from a divorce lawyer, as you guys know, and I record on my phone. I didn't want to lose my momentum, so I glued in all the rest of the windows and I started on all the metal transfers. That call ended just in time for me to show you guys this little tip right here. If you guys are worried about aligning metal transfers, it is super easy. So what I did is I measured the opening. What is that, 8 millimeters, somewhere in there? Then I measured the height of the actual piece itself. That is what, 4 millimeters? That means I need a 2 millimeter space before and after the piece. So I just laid out a piece of tape 2 millimeters from the bottom of that opening. Then from there, I just went to a common spot for a measurement. I used the inside of the taillights. I don't remember the measurements, but I just put a little pin mark right in the dead center there. Now luckily the prancing horse, I used the feet as an alignment, so it was real easy to get centered. If you guys got a long piece like that Ferrari logo, let me show you how I do that here. I just measure the width of the actual logo itself. Again, a little tick mark right in the very dead center. And if I were to peel the backing off of that and align that mark up and the actual emblem itself at the very bottom of that tape, that will be perfectly centered. It is really super easy. I know a lot of guys just kind of eyeball it. Why would you do that when this takes maybe 2 extra minutes and you know it's going to be perfect? And I'm sure we could all agree here. By far, the most difficult part of metal transfers is peeling off that film. And I will brag, I got lucky here. I did not pull that emblem off, not even once. If you know, you know. Metal transfers, guys, they are really that simple. Do not be intimidated by them. With the windows installed, we could finally move on to finishing up the interior. Guys, we are almost there. We got what, 12, 11 more minutes left. We're going to have this thing wrapped up in no time. In Alpha Model, they pre-shaded all the windows. They made this super easy for us. This piece just falls into place right on that black outline. After that, these door cards, they just slide into place like so. And once those guys are in place and perfectly aligned, pry one of them off. Otherwise, this dash is not going to slide into place. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done some test fitting there, but, well, I'm stupid. So dashboard goes in first, then the door panels, guys. Now, one last thing we got to do for the interior tub / engine, we got to install the rear glass. And I'm just now noticing that yellow down in there in the engine bay. I really hope that's not some tape I forgot to peel up. Uh-oh. And we get just a very quick glimpse of it. Guys, it's still in there. Oh no. Like, where did that come from? Why is there masking tape in there? Um, this is all held together with screws, so I will go back and fix that, I promise you. But all we're doing here is we are just slowly walking this thing into place. Do not force it, because it will get kind of wedged in there and you're gonna cause some problems. Now, a few layers of paint kind of makes for a tight fit, but just go super slow, go even. If you go, shut up, cat. If you guys have ever torqued down a head, you know, start in the center, work your way out. Same process here. And once that guy is fully seated, we can install our chassis plate. And there is a hole that I overlooked, so I got to go back and fill that in with some black paint. And the chassis plate itself, it just installs with 4 screws. It could not be easier. And unlike Fujimi using screws to hold everything together, this actually works. I will note, however, that they do not sit flush. I'm sure you could counter drill those openings, but I'm not too worried. The car sits so low, and I'm not going to display it upside down, so it doesn't really matter. From there, we are going to assemble our rear diffuser. If you remember in part 1, I done all the carbon fiber and clear. So from here, it's just basic assembly as per the instructions. The exhaust tips, they are just bare turned aluminium. So I'm just going to go around the inside real quick with some flat black. Once this dries, this will look kind of the part like all the ash and the soot that you guys see in all the tailpipes and exhaust pipes. I didn't realize it during the unboxing, but there is kind of a bevel on the outside of those, man. That's a nice touch, Alpha model. Just like everything else, there is a huge locating pin. It's going to fall into place. This could not be any simpler. Now, in order for this car to be sold in the UK, it has to have that rear-facing kind of reflector, just in case you come up on this car broken down on the side of the road. And it's merely a piece of photo etch glued into place and some Tamiya clear red right over it. You guys ready for this? It just drops into place. Perfect. We are finally going to move on to the brakes. Starting off with the calipers. They have this kind of photo etch face plate that goes on them. I'm not sure what this is. And let me show you how I decant my spray paint directly into an airbrush just to save some time. Just point the nozzle down in there, and I press down the nozzle with a paper towel to keep all the overspray and the splashback down. And you just let that sit for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and it will gas off, and you could airbrush with it just perfectly. I'm doing this because there is a whole lot of fine detail on these calipers, and if I use a rattle can, it comes out so thick and heavy that it will fill all that up. And on this next frame here, you will notice these calipers in the background, unpainted. Yeah, continuity errors. It's hard to avoid sometimes. What I'm doing though is I am actually painting the rotor hats now in a semi-gloss black. And for the carbon ceramic, what I use is a Tester's Graphite Metallic. Yes, I know. Zero Paints makes a specific carbon ceramic just for the disc brakes. To me, it doesn't really look the part. And from my understanding, the plastic pieces they put in there, after a while, it all settles on the bottom, and then the thinner will get to it and dissolve it. So you just got a sludge of plastic at the bottom of your paint. So unless you're constantly shaking it up, from my understanding, that stuff just disintegrates if you're not constantly shaking it up and using it. Now for the rotor locks, I got to the fourth piece and I finally found the trick to this. What I'm doing is just using some tweezers and kind of just walking that piece around and squeezing it at the same time. Let me show you. What I was doing originally was I was using my finger to kind of push them into place, but they would never sit kind of even or straight. So I'd have to go back with some tweezers to straighten them out. Problem is, there is a super thin piece of metal holding them in place, so if you bent them too much, they would just break off. So I'm embarrassed to admit, some of the locks are just silver paint. Yeah, I'll be honest. Alright guys, honest opinion. Does that look like carbon ceramic? Let me know. Now as far as installing these goes, there is kind of a trapezoid shape in there and they wedge into place. It's really hard to mess them up. However, there is a left and a right side. Just make sure the calipers are facing towards the center of the car. And that goes with the back pieces too. Calipers facing the center of the car and the parking brake facing up. That's that black piece right there. And we got some more metal transfers for the mirrors, and they keep sticking to my tweezers and making this all the more difficult. So let's watch me struggle for a minute here. I also found it easier to peel off the film just to help aligning it a little bit easier because it is a super tight recess it had to fit in. There's not really much to say here. There is a flat center, a recess, and a very dead center of the wheel. Just push that decal into place. Finally, we can just slide the tire over the wheel and these things will just drop into place and they will fit perfectly. And that is it guys, that is our Alpha Model F8 Tributo done. Now enjoy some still shots here. And yeah, there's about a minute of this video left. We have to talk about something here. These wheels, I'm not a big fan of them. In fact, nobody is. If you look at any F8 Tributo, every single one of them has aftermarket wheels unless it is a car sitting in a dealership or the owner is waiting on their new wheels to be delivered. And yes, it's sitting kind of lopsided. I don't have all 4 wheels installed yet. I gotta point out, this has nothing to do with the Alpha model. They recreated those wheels perfectly. The problem is Ferrari dropped the ball and put ugly wheels on this car. That is it though, guys. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments. Have a good night.